again to WNBA Outlook recap. Had some technological issues the first go round, but we are back. We got Raymond Lyons, Wilson Tarpeh Jr. It's one of the many new things we have coming up while both the WNBA and NBA resume play in their respective bubbles. So, Ray, we're going to start with the first game today, which everyone was ready for. You know, highly touted number one draft pick coming in, killed in college. And then we got, of course, the 2018 Finals MVP returns. Breanna Stewart returns to the WNBA. Felt like it was a footnote in today's action, but Seattle handled their business 87-71. So I want to ask you what you thought of today's first game.
End result was pretty much what I expected. New York, just a super young team. They got 7 rookies on their roster, which rarely ever happens, if it ever happens in the WNBA. And then they're playing against, experience and talent. Like the Seattle got the band back together. This is the first time we've seen them at anything close to full strength since they won the championship. So I mean, I didn't expect anything less. It was competitive early. Seattle did pull away for a little bit in the first quarter, but second quarter, New York opened up with a 12-0 run. I even took the lead for a little bit. So they look promising. Lacia Clarendon, she was big for them today. She had 20 points. Just her aggressiveness and her attacking and getting to the foul line helped steady them for a good while before Seattle went ahead and broke the game open. In regards to Sabrina, it was a rookie debut. I didn't expect anything spectacular. She looked pretty much how I thought she would. She wasn't terrible. She wasn't awesome. She was 4 for 17, 0 for 6 from three. But she handled the pressure well. Seattle threw a lot of different looks at her. They doubled and trapped her high and often. She responded well as I thought she would. She's always been super careful with the ball and made good decisions, and that's what she did. Had a couple turnovers, but it's to be expected. Like this is why the WNBA is so difficult. You got a 4-year college player who was amazing, and the learning curve is is high when you make that next jump. So yeah, Seattle just welcomed her to the league. And I have no doubt she'll make her adjustments and get better as the season goes on. But she had a decent game, finished with 12, 6, and 4. Solid. Nothing too nothing too fancy, but she did her thing, and just looking to see how they grow throughout the season.
Yeah, this is something we talked about, back during draft time. Everyone, no matter the sport, we go crazy over, possible number one picks and get
Hmm.
excited about their production. And, as a whole, as a program, or with the focus, I think we were kind of all on the same page. Like, temper your expectations a little bit. Um, what the WNBA isn't is sweet by any means. It's not fun, especially on guards. And not to compare the two at all, but you know, some folks thought Kelsey Plum was going to cut to the WNBA and immediately continue the scoring barrage
Hmm.
she went on during her days at Washington. And this is not, it has nothing to do with her, not an indictment on her in the least bit, but there's such a difference between that level and this level. And it happens for most every good college player, even sometimes great college players. What's rare is when we see those college players come to this level and they're comfortable. Or even if they're not
Right.
comfortable, they're able to do what they want to do. And we go, hey, wait a minute, they're special. There's something wrong here. That's not normal. That is very atypical of what happens with this league. I think, the biggest thing today was even though it felt like a footnote at times, Stewie came back.
Right.
Seattle's whole again. It's a very deep team. Last year, they were missing Stu, they were missing Stu. And what happened last year was some of those players behind those folks, they grew up a bit. We
Hmm.
saw Jordan Canada all through last year. Natasha Howard showed us what the next step for her was last year when she had to be counted on. And she didn't even really do too much today. We saw some of the other pieces. Alicia Clark is always overlooked. We saw what she did on both ends. So I mean, not really shocked there. And then last year's first round pick for Seattle, Ezzy McBegor, she had a great game. It was a quiet game, 7 points, 3 rebounds. I'm sure nobody's like, oh, it's not like she went off for 20 or anything like that. But what we did see was yet another versatile big on a really good team on a team like this in the pipeline.
Hmm.
The fact that you got Natasha, you got Stewie, here comes Ezzy, and you mentioned during the first go round when we did this, Morgan Tuck didn't play today. Seattle's loaded, and I guess just I understand everybody's excitement, but sometimes you got to temper those things. Just live kind of like in the real world and let those things happen as they happen. One of the league's best players came back today. One of the league's best teams got the best player back. So that's really what should be taken away from this. Shout out to Jocelyn Willoughby and Leanna Odom for they had 9 points apiece, but like you said a couple times today, so much youth on that team. It's about the growth for them. If you can come in and
Hmm.
contribute, cool. It might be 9 points today. Even if it's nine for a couple games, it's consistency, and that's what you want out of any rookie: is consistency and the ability to grow during this sprint of a season. And then I guess the last thing for me was it was still kind of weird seeing Amanda Zui B and Kia Stokes stepping out the 3 point range, taking those shots. But we get it. This is what the league's becoming. Some of the best teams in the league. We just talked about Seattle. All their bigs have that ability for the most part, right? To step out and hurt you in some shape, fashion, or form. When they set a screen, it's not just they're rolling. No, they might
Right, right.
pop, and then Seattle's too. They might even put it on the deck. It's just a whole different set of headaches. We saw what Washington had last year when they were healthy. Lane and Emma are annoying when you can run 4 or 5 pick and rolls or 5-4 pick and rolls between those two. It's annoying. So I get where New York's trying to go. It's just about checking in on them kind of every couple games just to see how the growth is going.
Hmm. And then even when they made their run, they really went 5 out and attack. And it's to have that type of versatility and to be able to switch things up like that is it's only going to work out well for them.
Yeah,
So yeah, they'll once they kind of get used to the WNBA game, they'll be okay. Like they're not gonna. I wouldn't expect them to be like a championship contender or anything by the end of this, but you know they they got a decent shot at the playoffs. Just depending on how they develop and how they grow. Over these next 21 games.
yeah, that's the wild thing. I was looking at everybody's preseason predictions, all this crazy stuff, man. We don't anything's possible down here, but the last thing I would do is throw away teams that had success last year that were deep. But we'll get
Right.
to that a little bit later because you know we got time for that today, just a little bit. I guess the next thing for me would be Phoenix and LA. Your thoughts on that one, sir?
Oh man. Yeah, that one got a little ugly in the third quarter. It got a lot ugly in the third quarter. Let's not dress it up. But first half was competitive. It was what I expected it to be. You got the Sparks. They had a disappointing end to their season last year, so I know they were chomping at the bit to get things going.
Mm-hmm.
And they got some new toys to play with, and they put them to use today, man. Simone Augustus didn't miss a shot today. She was on one. Um, Familiar face NECA. She also didn't miss a shot today. Candace Parker was Candace Parker. And they just showed their full depth. Like they legit go 12 deep. And I think that was the difference. When they made their run, they looked like they were still fresh, and Phoenix was kind of slowing down a little bit. They their perimeter players got real active and pesky on defense, getting a lot of deflections, getting a lot of runouts, a lot of easy baskets, and that just kind of fueled their offense. And they just stretched it out on them, outscored Phoenix 30-8 in that third quarter, and that was pretty much the game right there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to add here, like you said. I guess the biggest thing is, we heard the thoughts of pregame about Brittany Griner wanting to hold herself accountable, to kind of make a push for the MVP this year. And again, not that this is not an indictment on how the rest of the season is going to go for her, but I hope she understands against the upper echelon teams that are here, you can't even have average, or you definitely can't have subpar performances, but you can't even have average performances. It didn't show immediately because Kia Vaughn did a good job in the first half when Griner went to the bench. But as soon as LA started doubling, and then you saw the difference in athleticism that they have on the perimeter, they came in waves and they got out and they ran, and that changed everything.
Man. Yeah, it just seemed like they went up another level, and Phoenix, stayed on. They didn't ratchet it up any, and that's how you get a 30-8 quarter.
Yeah, and shout
You
out
know?
to Brittany Sykes again for the big time block, the help side block
Oh
on
yeah,
Griner. You know, can't go without mentioning that. But she was such an intriguing player in Atlanta. And for the folks that didn't watch her in Atlanta, I hope you're definitely watching her in LA. In Atlanta, it was kind of just about when could she hit that next level. It's only one game, so here's just it's being able to see if LA can foster that growth, the continued growth out of her. But we saw
hmm
the type of impact she could have on both ends when she's active. She has insane length. We already talked about the athleticism, and the other thing is, her and Simone provide them something they haven't had on the wing in terms of people who can go get their own bucket. For a couple years, it's just been Chelsea Gray who could go do that in LA, or she had to kind of set the table for somebody else to get a bucket. Now, at times, it's like, and that's the scary part, depending on what's on the floor. Chelsea Gray could fall back, let them get to cooking, and all three of them are getting single coverage. That's a
hmm
very scary thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, man, then you got Tia Cooper, who showed up today. Christina Nigwe, she played well. Was a presence defensively. Like I said, man, they go 12 deep, and they can throw different looks at you, throw bodies at you, and they're gonna wear teams down, man. They play fast, and they're efficient, and they're gonna be a tough out. Like I think they heard the chatter about Seattle's back, and they they like outcasts at the Source Awards. LA got something to say, man. Like it's gonna be tough.
Nah, you're definitely right. I guess the other thing for me with that is, I mean, Phoenix isn't done. It's just one game, but I
Right.
hope that Skylar understands she's gonna have to be more assertive.
hmm
This is not the set the table type thing. Like, you're there to be assertive. She seemed kind of surprised the first time that Griner set a screen for her, where she could get a shot off. Kind of like, wait, hold on, I got this much room on the other side of this screen, and it's like, yeah, that's what it's gonna be like. But you have to attack, and that's the other thing, because what we saw with Bonner stayed on attack mode, regardless of what the other two did. She was set to kill at all times. So obviously, Skylar, you're not going to magically be 6'4" and play the four like Dewana Bonner, but you're going to have to be you. But this isn't the last stop you were in. They're going to need the assertive version of you for their big three to work.
Right. Yeah. And she definitely has that capability. Like she can score. Like that's in her bag for sure. So I mean, it's just and it's their first game together. They're going to learn each other. They're going to get better. They're all veterans. They're all you know highly successful players in this league. So it's not like they don't know what's going on. It's just going to take some getting used to. And that was another thing LA had on their side as well. The continuity
Yeah.
and them just being together for longer. The pieces that they added weren't they weren't a part of their core. There was just piling on luxury at that point. So so yeah, and that showed as well. They know each other. They know each other's tendencies, and they just know how to play together. And Phoenix will get that as the season goes on.
Yeah, so I mean that'd be fun to watch too. Another thing to keep in mind, like, unlike there's what, 14 less games, so it's like, yeah, there's
Yeah,
time, but you also kind of want to get it together and figure it out while winning. The
right.
last thing you want to do is be in a hole, in too big of a hole anytime during this, because that's going to require superhuman effort to go on that type of run to make sure everything's okay, right? So moving on to the last game of the day, speaking of another team that apparently heard a lot of their potential demise from some folks, placing them to the bottom of the league. There's 12 teams. They were places where the highest they were seventh. Are the WNBA reigning champions, the Washington Mystics. And yes, they play the Indiana Fever today, and the Indiana Fever have a new head coach, a new system. things to get in order. That being said, the Mystics are missing quite a bit of firepower. You might have heard of the players that they're missing. An Elena Deladon, a Tina Charles, Natasha Cloud, Latoya Sanders. Those were, quality pieces, excluding Tina, to a championship run. But today, what we saw was this is why Coach T is Coach T, right? You have so
Hmm.
many folks going, oh no, what are they going to do? The star power is gone. It's basketball, it's a team sport. And what happens on very deep teams, good players don't get to play because of what's in front of them. I'm going to hand this over to you in a minute, but just listening to some of the, being in the post game availability today, Maisha Hines Allen just said something great today. It's like, it's one thing, like this could have went two ways for me. I could have been mad and pouting that I wasn't playing, or you realize who's in front of you and you kind of just keep working and there's going to be an opportunity. Like, what can you really say when the people are. Emma Mieseman came off the bench last year. Do you
Right.
know how deep you are when Emma Mieseman, the finals MVP, comes off the bench? But go ahead. The Washington Mystics beat the Fever today, 101-76. Raymond, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Like you mentioned earlier, teams that were successful last year and had depth are all of a sudden being counted out this year, which I don't get. Like I understand you saying their repeat campaign is going to be a much tougher road because of what they're missing, but to totally write them off is not intelligent. I mean, if you look at Coach T's resume, I mean that just speaks for itself. He knows how to win. He knows how to coach this game. And then if you just look at the roster, I mean, Hines Allen was was a beast in college. Like she just wasn't on the floor last year for obvious reasons. Then even today, Tiana Hawkins really didn't play that much. She tweaked her back pre-game, so they're gonna monitor that situation, see how that goes. But hopefully she's healthy and can go. So that just adds another layer of depth to them. But yeah, they just came off a championship run. They're not the tuck their tail between their legs and fold type. It's they're gonna go out here, they're gonna try to win games, and they're gonna do what they do. And like the thing about it is they're missing star power, they're missing the MVP, but like this wasn't a just give the ball to one person, they go ISO the whole game situation. The ball is gonna move, people are gonna get open shots, the ball is gonna find its way in the basket, and they're gonna play defense. And if you do all those things, you're gonna win basketball games. If you do all those things with talented players, you're gonna win a lot of basketball games. So like this just the culture of sports as a whole is very wishy-washy. Like people swing on pendulums all the time instead of just kind of letting stuff play out. So like I definitely didn't expect them to look like this, but and I know that this is not going to be a they're not going to play this well every single game, but I don't expect them to fall off that much.
Nah, for me, it's the same thing. They were a balanced scoring team since he's been there. And it was kind of just like a build to the roster getting exactly where he wanted in terms of when they got
Hmm.
EDD, right? Then you go to the finals first year in Seattle, humbles them quickly. And I'm not going to count on the mental fortitude of a team that last year, after getting swept, there was only one response to getting swept for things that went the way they did the previous year, right? Was to get it done. So wasn't really shocked, and I'm just so intrigued by that pairing of Mieseman and Maisha Hines Allen because it's a
Hmm.
different type of pairing. What Maisha, what Maisha brings to the table, it kind of almost makes you pay for paying too much attention to Emma, right? Then Emma's
Yeah.
also one of those players where, yeah, she can cook in a low block, but she can get hers outside too. But what do you do if you chose to sag off Maisha, where she's the aggressive type? She's gonna, if you give her room, she's gonna eat up the space. It's not,
Hmm.
hey, I'm just gonna settle for jumpers or something like that. It was, so you're sagging off me. I'll see you at the rim.
Right.
Oh, I'm in transition. No one's picking me up. I will see you at the rim. And once she got going, after some point, Indy's kind of like, all right, we can't keep two on Emma. Then it took a little while. Maisha has a crazy first half. Then how did the third quarter start? Emma, Emma,
Hmm.
Emma. So I mean, and this is what we saw last year. It was just change around the piece, like substitute the pieces or at least the names, but the core of like the essential philosophy hasn't changed. It's a balanced
Right.
offense. Atkins had a quiet game. Ariel Powers, as usual, made an impact. And what I also liked was for them, it started the second quarter when we started to see the kind of defense we've seen from them during the past couple years in
Hmm.
spurts. It didn't carry over for four quarters, but in the second and third quarter, we saw that defense that we saw last year at times that allowed them to get out and run the way that they do. We know they're going to have issues this year where you play the bigger teams, like some of the teams we mentioned earlier, just about
Hmm.
securing the boards. But that's what makes it so intriguing because on as far as the wings go, they have size for days out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And but just speaking like of their depth, like Ariel Atkins, she came out hit her first three shots.
Hmm.
Like she can put the ball in the hole. Like she had a great rookie year. Last year there was some adjustment period. She started off kind of slow, but she came on towards the second half of the season. So now with even more opportunities, she's just gonna produce more. And Ariel, she grew by leaps and bounds last year. So I mean, it's you just got to have faith in people who've proven that they know how to win.
And the other
And
thing I would say for the Fever, Kelsey Mitchell still had her 25, but Washington
mhm,
was able to slow her down long enough to build that huge lead
right,
before she got going again. So credit to the perimeter defenders they have for a while. In the fourth quarter, obviously nothing really went well for Washington, but when you build a lead like that, it happens. But you know how Coach T is; they're not about to hear the end of that in terms of how they finish that game. I know
oh,
that's not going to be
yeah,
fun. But yeah, what they have in Kelsey and Tiffany Mitchell on the perimeter in Indiana is going to be fun to see how they grow in Coach Stanley's system. She's going to have them playing some, like, maybe not exactly how Washington plays because they have different pieces, but
hmm,
that free flowing offense where everybody eats is going to happen. Kelsey Mitchell is going to be even more dangerous the longer she's in this system because she's going to get the ball and have the space. She's a bucket. The last thing you
man,
want to do is be on an island with Kelsey Mitchell. And she's going to get that opportunity this year as they continue to grow and trust Coach Stanley's system. One of the things that jumped out immediately to me was Tiffany Mitchell. Like we know what
hmm,
Tiffany Mitchell was when she came out of school, but we first game, first live game really in Coach Stanley's system, and we see her doing what she did at college sometimes. Just living off the mid range, where it's like that was missing for a little while, right?
yeah,
And that's what we've seen. Coach Stanley, Coach T, they're gonna let their players be who they are. Like heard during the broadcast, those type of coaches not gonna put their players in a box, but there could be a certain way they do stuff in terms of being balanced, and they're gonna grow and get better. Like they have good pieces in Indiana has good pieces. They're gonna be fine.
hmm, yeah, yeah.
One of the other things I liked today was Elena Coates.
Oh
The nine
yeah,
rebounds and the fact that you're the only true, like real traditional five on the team. That was a solid outing. Yeah, you missed some bunnies, but nine rebounds. She moves her feet well in the pick and roll on defense, and she's a good help side defender. The fact that McCown wasn't able to just come down there and wreak havoc, which we saw her do to them last year at times. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So like that
and
that that size matters.
yeah. Any big with size pretty much gave them a hell of a day last year.
Mhm.
We saw it in the playoffs when they struggled with and of course everybody's not going to be the quality of player that Cam Page was, but that was an issue for them. Dealing with that size and that bulkiness and aggressiveness. And that's just something they're gonna have to work around again this year because they're not much bigger than they were. Coach is definitely gonna help. But yeah, that's gonna be an obstacle for them again. And
Yeah,
we'll just see how they deal with that when the
yeah, and I
time
think
comes.
I guess the thing for me is like obviously Maisha's not gonna have 22 every night, but
Hmm.
what she's gonna be able to bring every night is that motor, and that physicality, which is something we know this team has lacked at times. Because at
Hmm.
times, Tiana Hawkins was the only one that sometimes would come in during a rough type of game like that and kind of settle everything down because that's who she is. And Tiana didn't play today because her back locked up, but again, that's just such an intriguing pairing because she puts a different type of pressure on teams on both ends. Is that type of physicality and the fact that once she gets it, yeah, Emma could push the ball at times. It's different when that box of athleticism, that box, that the physical specimen that she is. It's different when that's coming at you full speed. And then with all the shooters around as well, I like the job Leilani Mitchell did today. It was just solid.
Mm.
It was her being her. Shea Petty, her activity defensively, it was good to see as well. But I mean, yeah, they got a long way to go. They're still getting to know each other. But yeah, I just kind of just with the folks that kind of threw them away too early. Yeah, I know it's just Indiana, but it's also just kind of crazy to throw away a team that's a lot of these young players. They done seen some things in their 3 years that they've been in the league.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
for both
They
Atkins and Hines Allen, you went to the finals twice in your first 3 years.
they grew up quick, man.
Yeah, yeah, it
Like
happens
it's,
quick. So looking forward to tomorrow's slate of games, and we'll be back tomorrow. I know all teams are off on Monday, which means we'll be off on Monday. In terms of recap from this, but as always, tune into the Focus TV on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. and then Fridays on DCTV at 10 p.m. and then on Saturday, I think it typically airs again at 4:30 on DCTV. And as always, get over to finestmac.com, my mind on sports.com, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. And you guys are gonna see us plenty. So you guys have a good night. For Raymond, myself, this has been WNBA Outlook, the very first edition of our daily recap. You guys have a good one.
like peace.